Hey guys, I'm Emily and this is Brooks Family Farm. Today is October 7th, 2022, and we are expected to get our first frost tonight. And where we live, we're kind of halfway up a valley and we tend to get a lot colder than even what the forecast says. So I am 100% sure that we will get a frost tonight and it will definitely change the look of this garden. So what I'm doing this morning is I just want to walk through and see what things are looking like. We've definitely dropped off at the end of this season and had some trouble with deer and with succession plantings not coming along. So there's not a lot out here anyway, but I want to take a look at it today, pick what I can, and then in the morning just see what has been affected and what it looks like, and we'll start going forward and prepping for next year. So here on this first row I have oregano, and this was started from seed this year. It's Greek oregano, but it's still pretty short. I'm expecting this to come back next year, so I'm curious to see what it does with this frost. And then after the oregano, I have some white prairie sage. I'm not sure what to expect from this. I think a lot of sage can handle a frost, but I'm not sure about this, so that'll be a fun experiment. So through here we have our first succession of gladiolus, which have been done blooming for a long time now, and then some tomatoes, which of course will not survive very much of a frost at all. A few that I need to go ahead. Oh, nope, can't pick that one. Hornworm. Where's the hornworm? Can I find him? Yeah. Oh gosh. So here's my end of the season trouble with tomatoes. You can see this guy right here has just snacked on this tomato. Hornworms are not hard to pick and pull off your tomato plants. Well, they're a little hard, but they're not that hard. And I did it very well early in the season. And the end of the season, I've just been walking by and saying, oh, hornworm, and going on. So that guy has gotten huge and he's really disgusting, and I'm going to walk away now. So these snapdragons bloomed like crazy for me, and so they are very tired and have kind of earned a frost at this point. I'll come and pick any blooms that Helen can use in her arrangements this weekend, but otherwise I expect this to pretty well go. Now snapdragons can handle a frost, but like I said, these are so tired that I'm just not sure. Over here beside them I have 3 Shasta daisy plants that are perennial. I have this Russian sage, which I picked pretty heavy last weekend. And then this yarrow, which I'll pick this stem today, but it's perennial, so see what it'll look like. This coneflower, which should be a perennial, and the lamb's ear, which should be a perennial. And then just a bunch of weeds on the rest of that bed. This is my reseeded arugula, which should taste a lot better actually after a frost, I think. And then a few sunflowers, which aren't going to do anything. Have a few zinnias that I planted over here just in hopes of getting something. And I almost got a flower, but a frost will just completely zap them. And same with these green beans. I was really hoping for a late harvest of green beans, but they will not survive. My wild and worn out tomato plants over here. These sunflowers, and I'm so curious. I'm going to pick every sunflower I can today. So this one, and I'll even pick this one. This one will open up fine. A couple of these. Because the flowers I don't think will do well with a frost. But I've heard a lot of people say sunflowers can handle even down to like 28. So I'm super curious to see what these do tomorrow. Over here we've got another row of sunflowers on the right that has definitely paid their dues. I've gotten so many blooms from there. And then this whole row of zinnias, which has gotten pretty bug damaged. We've had some cucumber beetles. There's 2 squash bugs. Gosh. I don't grow squash because I have so many squash bugs, and so they just go other places apparently. I wish they would just move away. But anyway, these zinnias will just be gone tomorrow. But again, like I said, it's no real big loss because I've already been kind of giving them to the bugs a little bit here. There are a couple nice blooms that I'll pick for our farmer's market tomorrow. I don't expect to make bouquets to sell at the farmer's market tomorrow. I might have enough for like one $15, maybe two bouquets. So I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to take a bucket for Helen. She makes little jelly jars of flowers that she sells for $5, and she enjoys doing it, and it makes people smile. So I think I'll just pick a bucket for Helen to take. So down here is just a bunch of random. I have some potatoes that obviously didn't get harvested and tried to come back. I had some celosia that is just dropping seed right now. It was pretty fun, and I was glad I had any because the deer really got crazy over it. I've got all this basil, which I will cut because it won't survive. Another batch of green beans. I was so excited about green beans. These tomatoes just need a frost. They look terrible. And there's a hornworm here too. I can see where he's been, but I don't know if I'd be able to find the worm. Yo, oh gosh, okay. He's grosser than the other one. Just massive. I hope that's focusing because like that's as close as I'm gonna get. He's so disgusting. Okay, moving on. That's what I'm doing. Just move along. My one little parsley plant will come down here to the bottom. This is one little parsley plant has made me so happy this year with these cute little flowers. I just love them in arrangement. So even though these are really small, I'll cut these and let Helen play with them. This has been so fun. I'm going to grow so much more of this year for flowers. And the parsley is good too, of course. Like there's good leaves here. I have tried to grow lavender several times, and this is the best it's ever looked. And I'm so hoping it makes it through a winter. I'll probably mulch heavy around it. I'll mulch everything heavy anyway, but I really want this guy to make it. Okay, so through here I have, this is just a wild daisy. This licorice plant, I have no idea. I just bought it at a nursery. I'm pretty sure it's an annual, but it's pretty. Low growing, but pretty. I'll cut all this basil because it won't survive. And then this lamb's ear. I planted this with the intention of using it next year. So should be perennial in our zone. I'm not going to cover it, and just kind of hope it comes back next year for me. Now these rudbeckia across the way, they're sprinkled in this row. They're not a very consistent stand, but some of them went ahead and bloomed this year. I expected them for next year, but they went ahead and bloomed this year, so I have no idea how they're going to tolerate the winter. But gardening is just one big experiment, right? Now these tomatoes are where I'm pretty torn because I have got some really giant green tomatoes. Let me get a hand in there. So not giant, but I think they're big. And I really want them to ripen, so I don't know if I'll try. See, like this one. He's big. So I don't know if I'll try and throw a cover over this panel or if I'll just pick them green and eat them, but so many green tomatoes. I'm kind of sad about this one. These are my experiment sunflowers. These should be the Black Beauty, which I really want to see make a flower, but I just don't think we're going to get a chance. And then these over here were the terracotta, and there's just no way. It just was a little too late in the season, which I knew it was too late in the season, so that doesn't bother me. It would have been cool if they flowered, but it didn't bother me to throw the seed in and just see what happened. So these few little dahlia plants are another thing that I may decide to cover, but not for the reason you may think. So this is a dahlia plant that looks pretty good. It's got several stems, it's had several flowers. This one's looked fine, but not great. This is a plant that's looking okay. It does have a flower wanting to come on. Most of my dahlias you can see look just terrible. So the reason I would cover here is not to try and get a few more blooms this year, but to give the plants a little bit more time to grow on their tubers. The longer they have those leaves feeding the tubers, I assume the better the tubers will be. And the next week or two, our lows are back to like the 50s. So I may come and cover these and give them a few more weeks before a killing frost to try and just build up that tuber stock for next year. So I'm going to go through and cut what I can, and then we'll see what it looks like in the morning. Hey, so it's Saturday. We got up this morning and left before dark to go to the farmer's market. our car's thermometer did say 31. So I have already sneak peeked when we got back. We were kind of in a hurry to unload, but I did do a quick little walk through the garden. So we'll go over there now and take a look. I was really surprised it wasn't all frozen and it didn't all survive either. It's fairly patchy. So we'll go take a look. So definitely this is a very light and spotty frost. Things that are definitely frost tender look perfectly fine, and other things don't. So very, very light frost, but we're not forecasted to be even close to frost temperatures for at least a week and a half. So my things that survived have some time, and I need to actually take care of them now. I thought we were going to be done. So this is my oregano, which looks perfectly fine. I expected that it would. This sage also looks perfectly fine. I don't know if that means anything though, but it looks great. This first set of tomatoes looks pretty good. I mean, it was in rough shape beforehand, but there is a little bit of damage on some leaves. So here the dark area is frost damage, but then the rest of the plant, the actual fruit, is in good shape. Coming down here, my snapdragons look just the same. Even like the blossoms didn't get damaged, so I wasn't sure about that. They look fine. The daisies, of course, look fine. This one had kind of a diseased area. That wasn't because of the frost. Russian sage is fine. So these zinnias were definitely damaged to the point that I don't think they'll make it. They're not dead. And if we had several more weeks, I think they'd make flowers. But like this is dead. This is all dead here. So it would have to create all new branches. And we just don't have time for that. Same thing with these green beans. So these leaves are damaged and they're dead. They'll fall off and die. But the stems still look good. I just don't think we have enough time for that to mean anything. Now, I've always thought that sunflowers were frost tender until this year. I've been hearing a lot of people say they can tolerate some frost and they look perfect. So, especially with good temperatures for the next week or so, I expect all these buds to make flowers. So I'll have at least one or two really nice sunflower bunches. The arugula, of course, looks really good. These tomatoes are kind of half and half. Part of what looks so bad is the hornworm damage, but definitely you can see a lot of frost damage. I never paid attention to cucumber beetles when I was just growing a vegetable garden, but that's that thing. And this is the damage it does, and they're the worst. And they're the worst. I have lots of things in mind to work on pest issues for next year. Still not going to use any pesticide. I haven't decided if I want to even use like organic pesticides. I'm just not sure. Next year I'm going to be fertilizing. I didn't fertilize at all this year. So I've been hearing a lot about the healthier your plants are, the less pest pressure you'll have. I had never heard of bricks before, but I listened to a podcast talked about the bricks level or like the sugar content of your plants. If they're really healthy and really high in that, the bugs don't like them. So, I mean, it's good to fertilize anyway, so it's certainly not going to hurt anything. And then we've also been working on the health of our soil with this deep compost in place hay mulch system. So I'll be maybe doing a soil test or looking for some other amendments, even inoculating with some beneficial microbes, just to try and improve the health of my soil and plants and see if that helps me with the bugs before I try anything else. So this row of zinnias is a lot like the tomatoes. When you first look at it, it looks pretty good. When you start really looking, there's some damage and some not damaged. So like obviously this bloom got frosted pretty hard. This one got frosted medium hard and already had a bunch of bug damage. This is a good example where the frost hit the top of this flower, but the stem is still healthy. anywhere at this point, so we're 6 o'clock in the evening, maybe 12 hours after frost. At this point, color change is the big indicator. So like here you can see these leaves are darker, and they would have been dark green this morning, and now they're starting to turn brown. They'll be all the way brown tomorrow probably, and kind of crunchy because they'll be dead. So there's a lot of that through here, but there's also some really healthy looking leaves. So we may get a few more blooms. It's overall pretty well done in here. Like this plant didn't get any at all, but it's shorter and kind of shaded. This set of green beans is real sad. Just real sad. Same with the basil. It's pretty well done through here. So these lamb's ears look perfectly fine, which is definitely what I expected. If I come over to the next row, the rudbeckia looks pretty fine. I think maybe a little bit of this purpling is frost damage. I don't know. It's a new plant for me. It might not be. It looks pretty good. So this last trellis of tomatoes was the only one I was disappointed about, potentially. And there's some frost damage, but for the most part, I think we came out pretty good on this one. This is the one that had all the big green tomatoes, and I think the stems are still pretty good. And once the sucker starts to turn colors, he's coming inside. So the big question, and my really only main concern, was the dahlias. And it's also the spot that is the most interesting to me, unless it's changed a lot in the last couple hours. So I think we've established that my dahlia patch, if I can even call it that, is really sad. It's in this really weedy raised bed, and I kind of watered it. The drip tape comes over here a little bit. Didn't fertilize it all, didn't water it enough. So it's sad anyway. Like, don't come at me. I know that. But it's also what I'm most excited about for next year. This year I just threw these in the ground and forgot about them because I had never grown them before, and I didn't know how cool of a flower they really are. So now I'm excited, and this tiny, sad little patch, I really want to grow me some tubers for next year. So let's take a look. So this is Groovy. This is, oh, sorry, it's fine. It's just a fuzzy caterpillar. I wasn't prepared. This is the flower. This is not a good example of what she looks like. Just because it's so old and overdone. But this is the plant, and it looks great. It's going to keep feeding the tuber with these leaves. There are a couple of leaves that look like they're a little bit darker, like they were frost damaged. But otherwise, like, we're okay here. This is a random dahlia that had to have been mislabeled. It's bright yellow and kind of ugly, but super healthy right now. This is one of my top two favorites, Holly Hill Orange Ice. This bloom that's coming on I think will be just fine. The stem is great, the bloom looks fine. There are a few leaves that got frosted. Several, they're all a little frosty up here. Down lower they're healthy. That will at least feed the tuber, even if not the bloom. But then we come back a little farther. Right behind that is this one. This was Ivanetti. It's not even dark green. Like, it's just all the way brown now. Totally frosted. This was iced tea. It looks super great. A little bit of damage. It's already dried out. Still green. Gonna feed the tuber. This one is Rip City, and I only got one bloom, and then it had all this foliage that is all dead. So I was a little disappointed, but it did have a lot of foliage, so hopefully there's at least a tuber or two underneath there for me. But it is dead. And then I'm looking right here. This is one that didn't bloom this year because, again, like, it was totally overgrown with weeds this whole time. Look how sad. So I don't know which one it is. There's a few that didn't come up even for me, so this could be one of about 5. But it got frosted. It had this little bloom, but I think this plant looks like it's dead. So I don't think that bloom's going to do anything. So I guess that wasn't that weird at all. Some of my dahlias survived a little bit. Mostly they got frosted. When I came out here when we first got home, it looked like everything looked great except for Rip City was completely dead. And I thought that was really weird. I thought, why this one is completely dead? But now that I'm back out there, there's definitely some damage on the others. So for me, this was a good reminder of a couple of things. Number one, frost takes no prisoners. Like the lightest little frost is enough to just completely kill the leaves of some plants. Maybe not completely kill the whole plant, but this was a very light frost. And where it did touch, they're just gone. That's so evident in the zinnias. Last year, I covered for a couple of light frosts and then had a really heavy frost. So I didn't get any damage and then just totally dead. So to see kind of half and half is interesting to me. Also, it just re-emphasizes sunflowers' hardiness for me. They're not going to withstand a lot of heavy freezes, but they look really good after this frost. And some of those are pretty tall, like they would have got frost on them. So it just emphasizes that I can put those out maybe a few days earlier than I thought I could. I learned that this spring a little bit. I can put them out a few days earlier. I can push into the season even a few days. So that's kind of good to see. And then those that I know are hardy or even perennial look really good. And so that gives me always a little bit of joy. I would never want to plant just a summer annual garden. Although being completely done right now doesn't sound so bad. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was at least interesting. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll see you on the next one. Helen saw me and wants to say bye. Hey, so I want to jump in this video real quick. I already have it edited, but before I post it, we had our first very hard freeze last night. So we had just those couple of really light freezes and then warm temps. And then this morning when I woke up, we were 18 degrees. And so the garden looks a whole lot different. So I wanted to highlight just a couple of things after that freakish hard freeze. So usually we don't go from like lows in the 40s to 18. I don't know what this was. It was a little crazy, but it definitely made a big difference on the garden. So the oregano and the sage both look really good. I'm really excited about these. The main difference is these sunflowers. So 30, 29 degrees, they were just rock stars. 18 degrees is a total no-go. The snapdragons look surprisingly good. Now remember, these are just old and worn out snapdragons anyway, but for 18 degrees, I think they look really good. Obviously the zinnias lost all pretense of life that they had before. The rudbeckia looks really healthy. Like obviously it's damaged, but I cannot emphasize enough times it was 18 degrees. So that's the end of the annuals this year, and I am not sad about it. I'm already in the process of getting that garden put to bed. I haven't gotten very far along in the process, but planting tulips, planting peonies, putting a deep layer of hay mulch over everything, and then on to winter tasks. I didn't stop because I was kind of in a hurry, but the perennials look amazing. The lamb's ear, daisies, yarrow looks really good, and like those snaps and rudbeckia look pretty good too. Those snaps won't overwinter like for another year, I wouldn't think, but they look good for now, and I'm really impressed with what they could tolerate.